Well, welcome to today's webinar, 5 Tips for Getting Fast and Complete Responses to Your Hotel RFP. My name is Shimo with DMAI, and that's Destination Marketing Association International. DMAI is the trade association for convention and visitor bureaus, and empowerMINT.com is the web portal where you can find all the best CVBs in one location. And CVBs are known to help you find the best fit for your meeting, no matter what the size or where you're headed. And facilitating today's discussion is Terry Roberts, who manages our training and development for DMAI empowerMINT.com. Welcome, Terry.
Good morning, Shimo.
And we're so happy to have with us 2 experts from beautiful San Francisco. First of all, I'd like to introduce you to a hotel industry trailblazer, Anna Marie Pursuti. Hi, Anna Marie.
Hi, guys.
You know, Anna Marie, your hotel career has really spanned over 2 decades, but we won't talk about that, right?
Right. Like, that's not really a good way to start this, is it?
But, you know, you're currently serving as the Vice President and General Manager of Hotel Nico, specifically there overseeing the day-to-day operations of Hotel Nico San Francisco. And I stayed at your hotel, beautiful hotel, and so welcome, Anna Marie. It's great to have you with us.
Thanks. I'm happy to be here.
And your co-presenter today is John Reyes, who's the Executive Vice President and Chief Customer Officer over the Convention Sales and Services Department of San Francisco Travel. Welcome, John.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
And John, you're also quite the veteran, been in the hospitality industry since 1982. And before you joined San Francisco Travel Association, you've been over in the Jacksonville and the Beaches Convention and Visitors Bureau, and also at the Monterey County Convention and Visitors Bureau. And not to mention your career at the San Diego Convention and Visitors Bureau. So welcome, John. It's really great to have you with us.
Thank you. CVBs are my life.
So, before we begin the webinar today, I'd like to just cover a couple of housekeeping announcements. One is that all of you have a question and answer box, and you're welcome to put in any questions that you have of our panelists, and I'll be fielding those towards the end of our webinar today. And, you know, we also want to welcome, we have convention and visitor bureaus as well as planners on the call. And for our planners, we really would like to just kind of start in and engage with you a question to start off today's discussion. How many RFPs do you send on an annual basis? So as the audience is filling out that poll for us, let me turn it over to Anna Marie at the Hotel Nico. How many RFPs are you receiving there at your hotel?
Well, probably a little over 2,000 a year.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
Quite a lot of activity.
It's a lot of activity, and it's both the citywide piece as well as the self-contained piece, and, you know, small groups, big groups, whatever the case is. But, yeah, the activity is fruitful. Let's just say that.
Well, then you'll have a lot to say today about you know, some of the tips that you can pass on to our audience about how those RFPs get distributed and what is contained within them. But how about you, John? What are you receiving at San Francisco Travel?
Yeah, we receive over 1,400 RFPs on an annual basis, and to what Anna Marie discussed, 20% of those are citywide and 80% are self-contained, which we call non-Moscone Center RFPs, requests for proposals. So like Anna Marie, we're pretty busy, but certainly always interested in getting more RFPs.
Well, let me share with you what our audience is involved in. We have 44% of our planners today that are sending 10 or less, and then 26% or a little over a quarter sending out 11 to 25, and 21% sending a good amount of 26 to 50, and even 10% of the audience sending more than 50 RFPs on an annual basis. So that kind of gives you what we're looking at in terms of the experience today. So let's go to Terry, and why don't you start us off with this great discussion today?
Sure, Shimo. When we first agreed to, look at this content for, a rich planner webinar, I think initially I had said we should title it, "Why is no one returning my call?" Because we have heard so much from planners who are frustrated with not getting kind of the fast response that they want to get from hotels. And so they're confused about why hotels aren't responding and whether or not hotels in fact really do want their business. So our thought process is today looking at 5 tips for ensuring that your RFP gets that top priority, and we specifically asked Anna Marie to join us to give us kind of an inside look for what are hotels really looking for when they first evaluate a meeting, and of course ways in which we think your CVB can be helpful. Without a doubt, I think for everybody on this call, time is, your most valuable and probably most elusive commodity. We all feel like we can't afford to waste time, and waiting for slow responses to a request for RFP is extremely frustrating. And even dealing with those sort of cookie-cutter responses or proposals that really, you get a response, but it's not specific to your needs. It doesn't really address your unique requirements. So we want to make sure that we cover what we can do to ensure that quick, customized, and complete hotel proposal. And we specifically feel, and I know John agrees with us, and I really believe that Anna Marie does too from our conversations, that CVBs are the perfect meeting planning partner, and in fact the very first call you can make in any destination, the best first call to make sure that you find that right fit, and that they offer really a unique look at a comprehensive view of everything you can consider in the destination. They bring a very unique blend of local expertise, and then they leverage all of their in-market relationships to you, and ultimately providing all of this service without any additional cost to you, because they are in large part funded by the tax base or assessments in their destinations. So let's get with John first. And John, I'd like to tee up a question for you. As a destination expert and sort of that insider in the destination, what do you feel is unique to the way a CVB can help a planner get the kind of responses that they are looking for?
Well, Terry, you really described it when you talked about in-market relationships, and you really talk about leveraging the advocacy for the customer. And to your point, we have the ability to help educate the hotels. We have full-time relationships with the hotel community, not only at the sales level, but obviously at the level of the general manager. So it allows us to understand the business and the desirability and the fit, and be that advocate. I've worked in 4 CVBs in my career, and one of the most valuable things I see is, again, on the education and the understanding of really what's happening in the market at the time, the desirability, the seasonality, abilities to help tweak that RFP and to get that answer. And again, the ability for the planner to pick up the phone, let us know, this is urgent, so we can ensure, and as you said, time is money, and we're all very, very busy in this very interesting technology age, but it still comes back down to education and relationships and leveraging that information, and also knowing of other options in the community. Many times we see a desirability for a certain product, but we like to talk to the customer about options, so that education, that understanding, and again, being able to get that information to the hotels becomes very, very important. And being able to pick up the phone beyond sending an email, which a lot of us do nowadays, and having that relationship, I think, is just most important.
Absolutely. John, as a control freak myself, I want to ask you, because a lot of planners say, I'm afraid to release that control. That, when I go direct to a hotel, I can be assured that I only speak to the hotels that I want, and I can get information firsthand. What about that planner who might be reluctant to turn over their RFP to a Convention and Visitors Bureau in fear that that information will get to places that they in fact don't want to hear from?
Yeah, then it comes to the point of us being an extension of the planner's process, and the planner being very specific on, again, who they what and what they want, and us respecting that. I know one of the number one issues that I come across in this position is, do you send this information out to everybody? And the answer is no. I mean, what we try to do is understand what the planner is trying to accomplish, fit it within those parameters, and really let the planner feel like they do still have control, but we become part of that process to really become a solution provider in getting that meeting to where they want it booked.
Very cool. Anna Marie, education. John mentioned that word I think 3 or 4 times. What is important? What information should planners really include in their RFP? What makes it better? And I know that many times we talk about rates, dates, and space, but obviously that's the obvious. What are you really interested in knowing?
Well, in our case, more is better, and I think sometimes people think, oh, less is more. And honestly, the more information we have about the organization, about what the purpose of the program is, about the type of meeting, and who the players are that will be attending the meeting, what that demographic looks like, that's in San Francisco's case, and I think in probably every city's case, it's incredibly important to know that information up front. So we rely on the CVB to kind of vet through that to say, yeah, this is going to be a great fit for you. This is the right destination. This is the right city. We've got the right hotels to accommodate what your needs are, or not. It could be the other way. Like maybe this isn't such a great destination for this particular group. I mean, I think we're relying on that arm and the extension of our sales office via the CVB to kind of get us through that. And if we know what the hot buttons are from a planner's point of view, if we know what the absolutes are right up front, we can address those and be completely transparent with one another about, okay, these we can accommodate, this we cannot, And I think the more information we have, the better the RFP will be addressed and the better your needs will be fulfilled in the end.
But Anna Marie, a lot of planners might look at this list and say, this seems like fluff to me, like telling you about the purpose of our meeting and the demographics of my group. Like that's a lot of extra peripheral information. What are you really going to do with this kind of information to determine if you have space or don't have space?
Well, it's not even a matter of if I have space or if I don't have space. I mean, there are, in the case of San Francisco, it's the demographic, a lot of people can come and just have complete sticker shock. So if you've got a group of folks that are coming in, they've got to be prepared for that. So a lot of that's why that's helping us. It's, dates, rates, and space are one thing from a planner's point of view, but from an attendee's point of view, are they ready for the type of city that we are, and maybe how expensive we are. So it's, and the hotel is only as good as the information they have. It is important. If we know that the information that's being discussed is highly confidential, then we are going to put you in a place where your meeting needs can be met. And otherwise, if we don't have that information, then we're just using what we have.
Terry,
so,
I would add to what Anna Marie is saying on mission to your question. It's also added value with, for example, using San Francisco and other destinations. If we know what the hot topics are, the ability to educate on speakers that are within the area, certain creative solutions that, to Anna Marie, talks about, what may seem as an expense all of a sudden turns into an added value. Having the meeting in a certain destination, knowing the mission and the purpose helps us provide more solutions and alternatives to the customer, if that makes sense. And sorry to interrupt on that matter, but I think that's the importance mission as well.
So the bullet points here really speak not necessarily to can tell you whether I have space or not, but I can really tell you if we have the type of property that can really be attractive and enticing for the group.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
John, what goes into building, what a bureau, a CDB, or a hotel would really consider a complete RFP?
Well, in the business in hotels, because I started in hotels, it was all location, location, location. Today's environment is really history, 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 as well as specifics and not generalities, letting us understand really what your program is about and understanding the pattern and what you're trying to accomplish again. And the more specifics you can give us, and I realize that does take some time, but for example, we had one group that was looking at San Francisco and understanding their program and digging a little deeper in the planner, providing us more information, allowed us to actually provide them some options that they had not thought about. So, building a complete request for proposal is saving yourself time in the beginning to provide as much specificity regarding the program and not just saying that it's 200 rooms and just leaving it at that, but let us understand the pattern, again, the priorities, and giving that additional information beyond rate, dates, and space becomes really important because, again, to be the advocate, back to what Anna Marie was talking about, is making sure that it's a good match and really connecting the right product with the program. And again, as you talked about, Terry, at times that seems like a little bit more work, but it really isn't, because it helps us understand exactly what the customer is trying to accomplish.
Well, it kind of, speaks to that sort of garbage in, garbage out kind of proposal thought process. The more you give up front, the better what you get on the back end is, and it ultimately becomes a time-saving proposition. And John, what about putting in those non-negotiables up front? If there is a rate ceiling, if there is a deal breaker concession, if there's something that is going to be salient, is up front the best place to put that?
Yeah, upfront is the best place. That way it saves phone calls, emails back and forth, back to the transparency that Anna Marie was talking about. It allows us to be very direct and honest with the planner, saying, what, in this particular case, this is what we believe can happen. We'll still represent you or demonstrate some other options that you may not have thought about. So in my feeling, yeah, being upfront and specific is the best way to go.
Okay, and for planners who may be looking for a standard RFP format, if they don't have one, or if they would really sort of like to test their own RFP format against industry standards, the CIC does have a specific RFP form, and you have the URL here to be able to download that and look at it and customize it and compare it to what you're currently using. So, Anna Marie, John said history, history, history. And I know that Shimo and I have both had 3 industry organization education sessions in the last 3 months. All 3 of them have been standing room only, where we were talking about planners' history and post-event reports and having good information. And many people think about their historical data when they're going out to RFP, kind of process. It's like their credit rating. So how do hotels give priorities to groups that can demonstrate this history, and what type of history are you interested in really looking at?
Well, it's the single most important thing that we look at from a hotel perspective, especially in a city like San Francisco where demand is so high. Your history and basically your track record, as you just said, is far more important than a brand new meeting that's never existed and may look on paper like it's a better program, but I can assure you that the hotel's going to go with what has great history. And even if there's inconsistencies in your history, I mean, I know that in 2009 and 2010, those were tough years. But if we can explain those up front and we have a good idea of what happened, or even if maybe an association or something had a hiccup or a change in a board, whatever may have caused it, if we know that, we can say, oh, okay, so we're not looking at necessarily the even Steven, oh, this has got great history every year. We understand that every organization goes through hiccups, But to have that information up front, that certainly helps us. So your history and your program is far more valuable with history than a brand new program coming in that doesn't have anything to stand on.
Well, I think you made a great point about the inconsistencies that, some planners may think, oh, my history doesn't look perfect, so I won't provide it. I'll just kind of ignore it. I'll leave it out there. So you're saying put it in there, put in the explanations, open up the conversation, and be transparent.
Right. And, I think it's ironic we're dealing with a program right now that, the history has not been good, but the planners come back and said, let me tell you why I need more space and why I need more rooms and why this program is going to blow up compared to years past. And there's been a huge change in technology for this particular company, and they're rolling something out, and they just got approved. And, there's a lot of things that we can say, okay, well, all those things make sense, and despite what you've done in the past, we can see where you're going in the future, and we can at least have that conversation so that we can aid and assist. Otherwise, everybody has inconsistencies. Everybody, we just need to know what they are and why. That's all.
That's great. So, John, tip number 5 is all about flexibility, because I know that one of the very first questions that hotel salespeople and CVB destination sales professionals ask is this program flexible? So many planners may feel like, ooh, I don't know if I want to demonstrate that flexibility up front because it might not put me in a great position to be able to get my preferred date. So what's your thought process there, and how is flexibility important to leverage in negotiation?
Yeah, the thought process is really, again, to understand what your primary dates or decisions are, but being able to represent you fully to the hotel community on options. It really saves time, and really that's all of us are looking to be able to do that. So again, to what we've been talking about, the transparency, went to an excellent education section on naked negotiation, and the days of hiding are over. The ability to communicate and communicate that flexibility allows everybody to work together, and quite honestly, sometimes with the discussion saying maybe it isn't a good fit, or at least what I have seen in my experience in working with meeting customers is, providing solutions, options, obviously looking at the preferred dates, but we can give some inside information about the community, about different items or options, or being flexible and what that means to you. And it's up to the meeting professional to calculate that based on the ROI they're looking for as an association, corporate, or other type of meeting, to say, you know what, that does turn out to be a win-win, or it doesn't, and it doesn't mean that we're not interested in the business and won't work with the customer. It's just, I think, when it comes down to what we're trying to do, we're trying to make sure we can provide a timely solution for the meeting customer. So what I have seen is those, to what Anna Marie has talked about, customers that are flexible up front, communicate exactly what they need and willing to work, just makes the process that much more smoother in today's environment, which we're all seeing is, living with some uncertainty and really having to have answers as we work through trying to find, placing a meeting here in San Francisco or throughout, the country that planners are looking at.
Well, and I think it's okay to not be flexible too. There are some programs that are just simply not going to be flexible, and
right.
We get that. And I think if you're not flexible, you're not flexible. But if there is one day that can shift, or if there is any inkling of being able to have some sort of flexibility, that's great. But if you're not, you're not. I mean, people have busy lives and they've got crazy schedules, and oftentimes it's not flexible. So, either way, we get it. It's just better if we actually know we're dead on these dates, or we can slide a little bit either way.
Anna Marie, this is Shimo, and we have a planner who has a question about flexibility. So recently she's experiencing a lot of challenges with her RFP because the meeting space to sleeping room ratio isn't working for a lot of hotels, and I'm sure you know a lot about that. Now, yeah. How can she communicate? What are some of the words or phrases that she should be including in her RFP to let the hotels know when she is flexible with either adding more sleeping rooms or recreating the agenda in a way to use less space, because she puts her wish list on her RFP.
Well, that's a really good point.
Well, you know, the funny thing now is a hotel is assessing every single RFP that comes through, and not only looking at the revenue that's being created per available room, but also revenue that's created per available square foot. So if you're looking for meeting space that doesn't necessarily have food and beverage attached to it, so there's no revenue coming in, but the square footage of the building is being occupied with no revenue attached, then, you know, that's, the hotel's definitely looking at that. So are you flexible of putting in, you know, more breaks so that the revenue per square foot that you're occupying is better? Do you think that your program has flexibility to grow, or if not, you can reduce the space that you're using? I mean, we're really looking for balance, the right amount of guest rooms at the right amount of the right dates, you know, your in and out patterns, and the right amount of revenue per square foot that you're contributing, so that the building, you're looking now, instead of it's just a good room rate, that the building's revenue is actually what we need it to be, versus what you know, what you used to think was a good piece of business now is maybe that is a good piece of business, but not over the dates that you're looking for. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so I think that, you know, for the planners in the audience, some of the keyword phrases to be really sort of plugged into is open for discussion as it relates to the revenue related to the space requirements.
Yeah, it's not just the guest room revenue. It's the total space of the building that you're utilizing that they're looking to put revenue attachment to.
Excellent. Thank you.
So, Shima, when you think about, you know, over 100,000 hotels and facilities in the U.S., and then I'm a planner, I'm trying to figure out destinations, you know, what really is my best entrance into any destination? And we just want to make sure that planners understand that destination experts are willing and able and rapidly growing, and, you know, also really wanting to help. As John has said that word solutions like 5 times. And we have a great resource at DMAI, which is empowerMINT.com, and their planners do have an ability to get in touch and to connect with those destination experts, and to be able to search and compare across multiple destinations, even submit one RFP to multiple cities and not have to visit several different destination meeting sites, and be able to come back and manage their profile and even check their post-event reports that have been reported by CVBs in destinations in recent years. So this gives planners an idea of what their profile would look like at empowerMINT and how they would be able to manage their meetings and also check their histories. But I think that I want to end by kind of, again, just coming back to a word that Anna Marie said, which was balance, that hotels, as they are assessing RFPs, are looking for balance. But that's a tough thing to figure out if you're a planner. Like, how do I know destination to destination what might be a desirable balance criteria? And then if I can figure that out from destination to destination, how do I even figure that out from hotel to hotel?
Well, and you don't have to. You don't have to figure it out. The people
Right.
at the bureau and at the hotel level, they can help you do that.
Exactly. You know, so you don't have to try to figure that out for yourself. You can plug into these people who want to be able to help you and provide resources for you to know, hey, you're a great fit here. You might not be such a good fit here, right? Or this might be more of a stretch for you, and this is going to be an easy, you know.
And we have another question that I think is relative to this discussion, and this planner has already been working directly with a specific hotel, but the negotiations aren't going exactly where they want them to go. So she's asking, is it all right to kind of go back and start over and get a CVB or a third party to work on your behalf to get a better deal? Is that really appropriate? And maybe, John, you can address
well,
that?
my answer to that is we see that quite a bit, and Anna Marie and I and with other general managers in San Francisco talk a lot, as well as with the directors of sales and marketing. So if you're having a challenge, I think certainly picking up the phone, introducing yourself to us, and helping us understand, because ultimately we want to book that piece of business for our destination, and we do have, as Terry talked about, the established in-market relationships and leverage. Now, many times it may not change the answer, but you can qualify the no, and I know, Anne Marie can probably speak from experience. Our CVB is constantly calling various general managers and directors of sales and marketing to help be an advocate for the customer and the hotel, and trying to find that commonality where, what can we do flexibility-wise to keep this program here? And Anna Marie, I don't know what else you would add to that.
Well, and I think it depends on how far along that particular planner is in the process with the hotel. If there's already contracts and things like that signed, then obviously that's a whole different situation. But if you're just in the feeling out stage, I think it's completely appropriate to call and see if you can get what your needs are for your program through the Bureau, and figure out, maybe there's a home for you for that particular program. I would just say be cautious of where you are in the process.
That's a good point.
Excellent. Well, thank you for that. Now what you see on your screen, for those of you that have joined us today, you will receive CMP credit for your participation in today's webinar. And you'll receive half an hour of clock hours for your CMP, and the domain for this particular webinar is B Project Management. But of course, we will be sending you a link that will have attached this PowerPoint, as well as accessing the recording of this webinar. But I want to thank both our panelists. I think we've really discussed some pertinent tips for planners to help them with their RFPs, and we hope that you will pass on the recording when you get it to share that amongst your associates. So Terry, thank you very, very much for facilitating today's discussion. And if you have any questions, you can contact us at empowerMINT.com or troberts@destinationmarketing.org. John and Anna Marie, thank you so much for being great panelists and presenters today.
Been a pleasure.
Happy to do it.
Thank you, everyone.